Welcome back.
Thank you. Hope you had a good lunch.
My granddaughter made French toast.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yum.
I know, that sounds good.
Brunch.
I have potato soup that I'm now deeming my self-isolation soup. So
Good for you. Let me play here before we get.
Kelsey, Netta makes the soup from Olive Garden, and it's a potato soup, but it has a ton of kale in it, and heavy whipping cream, and a sausage. And it is so yummy. I can't have it anymore. She threatened to make it the other day, and I was like, you better not, because I can't eat it.
that sounds good. If you want to share the recipe with me, yes.
Literally, you can, if you do Olive Garden potato soup, it comes up. It's delicious.
Oh, we'll write that down. Right now, the soup I made, it's so easy. It's hash brown potatoes. You have to get the regular hash brown cut, which I messed up on today. Bacon
Like
bits.
shredded in a bag?
Yeah, the shredded frozen in a bag. You dump it in a crock pot. You put chicken broth on top of it. I get the medium size little carton, and then cream of chicken soup. That's it.
Gosh. Yum.
And then after an hour before you eat it, you pop a thing of cream cheese in there, so it thickens it. And I always serve it with bacon bits and cheese on top of it. So it's not healthy in the least bit.
But there are things you can do, like cottage cheese to thicken it up. There are things you can do that make it okay. And you know what? I'm not going to starve one way or the other. I'm going to eat something.
There you go. Yeah, for me, it was I was like, oh, this is gluten-free. This is something I can pop in when I get home from work and then have ready by the time I eat dinner, and so have leftovers for 6 days. So.
Yes, that sounds so yummy.
Hey, Gail, welcome back. How was your lunch?
Good. Quiet. My girls are out. My mom came and picked them up.
Good. We will get started in a couple of minutes. I've got 12:58. So Joyce, are you going to start us off with presentations?
I'm going to try.
Okay. And you'll be driving from your desktop. I'm going to see if I can switch control over to you now then.
Is that me?
Hold the phone just a second. Yeah, I had given you control before. I don't know how, but
had I known I was in control, I would have tried to drive. I didn't know. So should I say share screen? Oh wait.
Yes. Yeah, I have just shared host with you. Try share screen.
Well, as my granddaughter says, look at there. Is it going to open this one for me? There we go. That's not what I want. Okay. I want to be able to get to my tab up here. I want this stuff at the bottom. My controls need to move. Share. Let me look. Hide panel.
When I'm driving, I have the things that I want to pull up. I have them open already and minimized. Are you working in an Apple? On an Apple?
No, sir.
No.
Android. Okay. Can you see my screen?
I can't. It says launching. Is that your screen?
It says identifying beliefs to build on prior knowledge.
No.
All right, let me go back. Well,
Joyce, I sent you a picture of what we see.
Okay. How about new share? Would that be it?
Yes.
All right, let's see if this one's it. Is that it?
Identifying beliefs to build prior knowledge.
All right, that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to end up jumping out to my YouTubes to see if they will work instead of trying to link them. We'll just see as we go. You want me to go?
Do we have everybody back?
Let's see. I'm just trying to see mine. I don't know, do we? Is everybody back?
Yes, I think so.
Let's see.
I think we're missing Pam.
Yep, I don't see Pam in there.
Okay.
Oh, here's my stretchy screen so I can see everybody.
Yeah, play around. I was having trouble with the thumbnails before, and making sure I could see folks and see my screen and all, and the controls too. So mess around with it. But I've got 1 o'clock, and our agenda is to try to do presentations, 4 of them this afternoon. I have another activity after that, but let's give Pam another minute or two to try to get back, and then we'll continue. So, are there any other questions that you have, Joyce, about the controls now that you have the desktop, and can the rest of us learn something from that, or do we have to look at it and actually see it?
There seemed to be a floating bar at the top of
Okay.
controls that I asked to hide just now so that it wasn't covering up my tabs
Mm-hmm.
that I needed. Once you gave me control, I just hit a red button that was on that floating bar. Red, or I don't know, it might have been green, a button that just said new share.
New share. And that gave you the option to then pull up a variety of different screens to
Yes.
share with us.
It did.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the big thing to remember is that this is a meeting. By calling in or connecting online, we are all members in the meeting. We're all participants. I was able to manage participants and put you in breakout rooms. And part of the managed participant window or tab is also where I gave up desktop control, or no, they call it host. It's not controls, hosting. And I assigned Joyce to be the host. Joyce will have to unhost. Or can I do that?
I don't know, because I don't see
No,
it
I don't
anymore.
think. I don't see that part anymore. You will have to unhost or give up control for me to reestablish as host. But
I will try. I have hidden my control bar, and so we'll see. I will do my best.
And we're going to give you extra credit for going first and being
I may need it.
being a pioneer, because you saw how the model went. So you know, oh boy. I have 104.
All right.
Is it anybody know anything about Pam or?
I'm here.
Pam's here.
I know. I couldn't. That link, you know, the join the meeting link would go for me, so I had to go back in and get the meeting ID and copy it and paste it into that bar on the same site. That's I figured it out.
The rest of you found your way back. Thank you very much. Thanks. I hope that it was a nice lunch for all of you. And Joyce has agreed to be our guinea pig and go first in the candidate presentations. Again, I hope that you have a rubric. I have a rubric, and I'm going to try to be mindful of the rubric as Joyce presents. And then it's my plan to, again, ask you to self-assess. I have self-assessed my sorry presentation this morning, and then you and I will have a dialogue about your presentation. I'll ask you about your self-assessment, and I'll tell you what I think, and we'll do that later, sometime after this weekend. That's my plan, but this should be very low stakes and very low pressure presentation. Okay, I do want you to be ready and able to present to your peers. I do want you to be an instructional leader who is ready to present professional development for teachers at the drop of a hat. But we'll practice all of our technology and online presentation skills too. It's 1:05. I'm going to make a note of that. But Joyce, take her away.
So I had chapter 6, and it was all about beliefs and how you have to engage those belief systems even before assessing for prior knowledge. And that was very striking because I think we do that a lot to find out where our kids are, what they really believe. Earl said in chapter 6 on page 60 that students come to school with preconceptions about the way the world works. If their initial understanding is not engaged, they may fail to grasp new concepts and information and may just memorize and then revert right back to their old belief systems when there's no longer any test or anything at stake. And often these preconceptions include stereotypes and simplifications, but nevertheless, they have a profound effect on the integration of new concepts and information. So initially, this really struck home with some of the stuff I do with my coding class. And that's what I would have had us doing, is looking at how I open my coding class with some algorithm stuff. So before I go on, let me share this piece. We'll move what I'm seeing around. So it says objectives. Objectives. Peers will consider the following. What do I believe about education? Can assessment be used to identify and challenge preconceptions? Peers will examine their own beliefs regarding education, and peers will share their beliefs. So that's my adult part of this. And then we're, of course, still in that support educator development domain, that first domain of the teacher leader model standards. But I thought I would go ahead and at least share the video that I share with my kids to see kind of where they're at with what they believe an algorithm is, what they believe about math and their ability to figure out steps. And I'm hoping this will work. So we're going to click, I'm going to click on a video that I have called Algorithms, and it's just a little piece. It's a professor, and I show the kids the first part of this, and I'll show you the game I play with them, and then we'll move on to the adult parts of this. Can you guys see the YouTube? Did the screen change?
No, it has not.
Interesting.
New share, go to new share.
That would,
and you have to have the YouTube open in a new window.
All right, new share. There we go. How's that?
See, yes.
All right, we'll open that up. And I'll just start this professor talking where he's going to talk about algorithms a little.
Video, no audio.
Video, no audio?
Yeah.
I'm just looking for a control that might fix that. No? Still no volume?
I thought I heard something, but it stopped again.
All right, hold on. We'll try again.
Joyce, I just Googled it.
Thank you, Kelsey.
It says to share a computer audio during screen sharing, click on share computer sound.
Okay. Got it. I just didn't go far enough down on the controls. It's under the more, more at the end of your control bar, and it's second to the bottom for the next person that has to do this.
Thank you.
All right, so let's try again.
You might have noticed that when you take a photo with your phone...
I'll do it. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it first. Okay. I'll do it first. Okay. It's all for you.
We tend to associate algorithms with computers, smartphones, and the internet. but they're not exclusive to the world of technology. My day job is Professor of Mathematics at Oxford University. And one of the things I enjoy most is keeping the students on their toes.
Okay, I'll say 1.
Here we're playing a mathematical game with a jar full of chocolates and 1 red hot chili. The aim is not to be left with the chili at the end. But what these students don't know is that I'm playing it with the help of an algorithm.
Okay, you ready? Okay, I'm going to go first. So remember, you can take 1, 2, or 3 chocolates at a time. So I'm not a greedy guy, so I'll just take 1. Now, your turn.
Each player takes on their turn between 1 and 3 chocolates.
So you've taken 2, okay. So I'll take 2.
Whatever my opponent does, my algorithm tells me how to respond.
Okay, I'll take 2. And your turn again.
Oh, yeah. So I take
3, and I'll take 1. And just
so
a chili left.
Me?
Yeah, so you have to take the chili. So there you go.
Let me reveal how the...
All right. So I have the kids watch this up to that point, so they get the gist of the game. And then they each receive a bag of, can you see me? I don't see me anymore. Okay. So they each get a bag of cubes. And the cubes represent the candy and the chili. They're given a piece of paper to try to figure out what is it that's going to make a winner. I already know the secret because I know the algorithm, so they really like to play me and try to stump me, and they play each other, and then they switch, and they try to figure out the algorithm, the set of directions, the mathematical directions that will give them the answer. They're in middle school. Nobody's ever done it yet, but they get close. They get about half of them. So it gives me an idea of where they are with their thinking about organized steps in a process. And they love playing. It's almost like a casino in here when they're playing. So that's what they get. And that is my beginning of algorithms and coding for the kids. They love it. And that's what y'all would be doing if I were there with you. So since we're not, and I revamped the rest of the presentation, we will move on. But it works nice in a math class too if you just want to engage kids and show them that math can be fun. And hold on, let me reveal it to you. Let's see if I can do this. So we have to go to ... unmute, mute, nope. Wait a minute. I'm gonna see if I can find that set of directions and finish sharing, and then we'll move on. Schedule, return to meeting. I'm trying. I don't know what I did last time.
Do you want to share a screen with us again?
Oh, yeah.
New share?
But I don't see the new share. I have to find the, I don't know where I went to get that bar that, hold on, maybe it's here. My apologies.
Sure. Run your mouse over the bottom or the top of your computer screen.
Hold on. Let's see if it's going to do it.
Yes, we're back to your video.
Yay. We will finish the reveal. The kids don't get the reveal until the next day. I think I'm going to share it there.
The algorithm I was using helped me win.
The only way to learn. So the key is to think about grouping things in 4s.
13 chocolates divides into 3 groups of 4 with 1 left over. So by taking 1 chocolate in the first round and then 4 minus whatever the other player takes in the subsequent rounds, this algorithm ensures that the other player is always left with the chili.
The essence of a really good algorithm, it's magic if you like, is mathematics. The best
So let me get back out of there. So the kids, they'll figure out that they have to go first, but they don't know how many to take, or they'll figure out that it is groupings of 4, but they don't really understand that first one and how to get rid of it. and they try to control what the other player is going to do. So you have to account for those things, but it's fun. It's a way to engage them to start the class. And I don't see my own screen anymore. I see Dr. Palermo, I see you. Oh no. Share screen, I'm gonna go back to share screen. So we'll go back to my Earl presentation. And share that. All right,
There you
so
go.
for the
We're back.
adults, we're back. For the adults, I can stretch this out a little bit. Okay. Those were the objectives, but here I want us to take a moment in light of recent events. And at first I want us to think about our pre-service training and what did we really believe about education and teaching when we first started teaching. So take a moment and think about that. I took your lead. I looked at your PowerPoint and said, hey, there, we just do this. I don't know if you want me to do breakout rooms or if we just want to think about this and then share out in light of time.
Try a breakout room.
All right, I will. Try.
Down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. See breakout rooms?
I feel like I should. I did a while ago.
Bottom right on the toolbar for me.
Sorry, no. Stop share. All right, here we go. Here, I see them. Let me try.
So you click breakout room, and then you can either manually assign or they will be automatically assigned. You say how many rooms you want.
2, 3, 2. We can do 2 because. All right, rooms. I don't know. There we go.
Is that working for you?
Enough? Does that work?
I don't see what you're doing. You're the host now.
Rooms. Open all rooms.
Yes.
I think y'all can hit click now.
I think she put 2 to a room because we're in breakout room number 4.
Oh, hello. How are
Hi.
you?
Good. How are you?
Good, except now I don't remember the questions.
I don't either.
What did we believe as pre-service teachers when we were just getting started? Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I had a very interesting start. I started off as an elementary education major, but then my first full-time job was OCS high school, which is like EC, Occupational Courses Study. So I was very naive, I guess. I do feel like I was prepared with the content side, but I was not prepared behavior or technology or all of the requirements that are put on teachers. I was definitely not prepared for that. I feel like because I'm a BT mentor and I run the BT program at our school, so I feel like they're doing a lot more in universities to prepare teachers for the reality of teaching and what it really looks like. But I don't feel like I was adequately prepared when I first started 12 years ago.
My experience is pretty different too. And again, it was more like 40, 50 years ago. But I graduated from my undergraduate program in 1976. And at the time, my roommate went into the Peace Corps and I went into education to change the world. I was a hippy dippy, was going to change the world. And I was a high school English teacher. A whole lot of my ideas about education have changed. I think improved since then. But yeah, it was a very different world. And was I prepared? Nah, not really.
Yeah.
I learned it on the job.
Yes.
And it sounded like Ellie Ed major, OCS high school. Sounded like you were totally unprepared for what you eventually wound up doing.
I graduated the year that they started doing all the cuts and all the teacher recession, basically. So that's the year I graduated. And I had to move back home. I was in CMS district and I moved back home. And
Wow.
that's the only job they had available. I'm from a very small county. So I took it because I was also expecting our first child. So I
Right.
needed something.
Right. Yeah, that's what we did. I kept my job in the beginning by coaching track, and I didn't know anything about coaching track. I got a book and I learned it. I was a pretty bad track coach that year. But anyway, yeah, I learned literally on the job, and then moved on to counseling and learned that on the job, and then was a principal and learned that by doing it too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. See you back in the.
All right.
See you.
Thank you.
And clear enough. I was asking, what did you believe about teaching and education when you first started, right out of your pre-service education? You want to share? Since you broke out soon.
What did I believe when I first started teaching?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe, you know what? I believe that all kids at that time, being young and energetic, that everybody could learn. Everybody could be successful. And that was my belief. And that's what I wanted for all of my students. And I worked hard to achieve that. And I still believe that, but I know that there are different ways in which that can be achieved. Because at that time in the 80s, when I started teaching, you know, the 504s didn't exist. You know, they were just getting on board when in 72 with, what was it, 94, 140, I've forgotten the number now, but with special ed, with doing a lot of integration. You didn't have as much, you didn't have, you know, the resource, although you still had students that were very different at that time. But I just believe that everybody could be successful. And that's what I kind of nurtured in my classroom. That was my belief.
Anyone else want to share?
Like LaShawn and I were talking about, we expected, you know, kids to be more cooperative, parents to be more supportive. And that's not where we are in education.
Anybody else want to share out there what they were thinking when they first started?
I believe when I first started that I was prepared to go in the classroom. This is what Dr. Palermo and I were talking about, but we both said that we got our training on the job. I don't feel like I was prepared at all for what I walked into, the expectations, the content. Yes, that was there mostly, but the behavior, the dealing with the parents, all the other extras that you have to deal with as a teacher, that when I graduated, there just wasn't courses like that available.
And I think that goes back when you said, what did we believe? I took my own values with me to the classroom because education was so important in my family. But, you know, that's not always the case. So I had my own bias with that.
And Gail, to kind of piggyback off of that too, I think that's what kind of prepared me, because my only teacher experience has been in Title I schools. And my very first one, it was like learning on a job as well. But I think what I wanted to be in. So I wasn't thrown too much off from what I did experience. So it wasn't like there was a disconnect between what I expected and what actually happened. So I think my thoughts coming in contributed a lot to exactly how things turned out for me.
I felt like that too. I chose to teach later in life, and I chose to teach in Title I schools. And I was already a mom. I had children in public education in schools that look just like the school I teach at. So I think I was okay. I think I expected behavior issues to some degree, but at the other end of it, I do believe all children can learn. So I opted for student teaching, even though I could have gone lateral entry. I wanted the experience of an experienced teacher showing me how classroom management, because the content was there. And, you know, I'm not afraid of middle school kids. I've seen teachers afraid of the kids, and that's insane. But I definitely, as Gail said, brought my values with me, that I believe you can learn, anyone can learn. and I just have to figure out how to engage you with my content. And I heard some other conversation about thinking we would be able to just enter the classroom and teach without all this extraneous crap that we have to do. So yeah, that was a little shocking. I was like, we have to do what? When? Okay, so that was a distractor. But moving on, let's move up a little in time to my next. Can you see my screen?
Seeing the PowerPoint presentation.
All right, just want to make sure. So now think back to 3 years ago. What did you believe about education? Did any of it change with experience? I wasn't sure exactly how long everyone had been teaching, but I felt like that would have given them maybe a little span. I'm not sure between, I just jumped out of college into class and then teaching a little bit, thinking about our beliefs a few years ago. What impact, if any, did classroom experience make on those views? And what's the role of teacher in education? And does good teaching look different now than it did when we popped out of the classroom and into our prospective roles as teacher? So we could take maybe 2 or 3 minutes to think about what our beliefs were about education and teaching 3 years ago, and were they different than when we began? And again, my breakout rooms, I don't know where they are. Okay.
I think you have to go out of the share and try going out of the share and then see if it pops up.
Stop share.
Yeah.
Breakout rooms, got it. I was looking at some new options here. Hold on. I like some new options. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna open the rooms. We'll just, I guess, keep the same rooms. I don't know how to fix that. All right, there they are.
Hey, Mallory, are we back?
We are back.
So again, I'm old, and my time in the classroom was a long time ago. But you know, I was really naive in the beginning, and I thought I was going to change the world. I didn't. One thing that I learned over time was the inequities that students brought to school. I really was pretty naive about poverty, about how the effects of poverty, and how you know, I just assumed that everybody came from a middle class household like mine, where there were books and, you know, you went on trips and stuff like that. So that was one thing that I learned, just the inequities in the things that students bring to school to begin with. Yes, I think the role of teachers has changed, and yes, I think a whole lot more is expected now in terms of teachers having a deep bag of instructional tricks so they can differentiate for everything, you know. So.
I agree. The same thing. I went in thinking that everybody not looked the same, but had these same experiences as we have. Because when I started teaching at that high school, that was the high school that I attended, and I had never seen that side of that high school before. Just because I was in the honors and the regular classes, and I went into the EC department, I didn't know that even existed. Because I didn't go to school for EC either, so it was a complete brand new experience for me. But 3 years ago is definitely a completely different mindset than it was when I first started. Differentiation, you hear that word thrown around all the time, but once you're really in it, you realize how important that is to reach every student. And I think the whole technology move has drastically changed what teaching looks like. And now it's no more teachers standing in the classroom. They want the students to lead their own learning, which is a huge curve for a lot of students and teachers. So it's all very different, and we're learning as we go, I feel.
So this is about belief systems, and I guess my belief systems have just continued to evolve over time.
I agree.
Yeah. Hopefully it's an upward spiral. I'm getting better. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'll see you back in there.
Okay.
And 20 seconds up, so they'll probably be in there for another minute.
But it was 120 seconds from the minute I said go, not from 2 minutes in. I was watching the clock. I don't know what happened.
It's fine. You gave us 4 minutes instead of 2 minutes. It's all right.
Did not mean to.
You're going to do a tutorial on this later, so I can.
Well, yeah. Say something about that, Joyce. You went to breakout rooms. There's a tab that says you can communicate or send a message to participants, right?
Yes.
And then there's a reminder that's, I thought it was just a minute, but how did you change the time on the reminder?
It was an option when I hit breakout rooms.
Okay.
To change it to 120.
Okay.
And I thought when everybody was in the breakout rooms that it would start, and I watched the clock for 2 minutes and went, okay, it's not kicking anyone out. I clicked it again and it just started it. So it starts the 2 minutes when you click it. I guess so, because now I can't change it. There's no option. I can't find where to change it anyway. I guess somebody could, but I can't.
Well,
but in 11 seconds, it won't matter.
Had you planned another breakout session for us?
God, well, I can, yes.
No, you don't need to. What I was going to say, the next time you move us to breakout rooms, I bet you can change the time.
I just didn't start the time. That's the problem. The time didn't start. Because I was thinking, okay, 2 minutes, why is it not stopping? And I checked it and it just started. I said, oh, okay. Well, so that was a long 4 minutes. How y'all feeling about teaching now 3 years ago? Did anybody's beliefs change from the time they started?
Oh, yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
I think when you talk about the beliefs changing, I think the focus has changed. And I think it primarily depends on what school district you're in and what school you're in, because to me that heavily influences the professional development you receive, how you provide instruction to students. So not only do we have to be reflective of what we perceive teaching to be, we also have to kind of adhere to the expectations of teaching from the district level and from the school level.
So I'm wondering how, in light of the fact that we need to explore beliefs before we do prior learning, so we've got a little bit of learning. 3 years ago, we've got a little bit of learning about our district, maybe more than one district. Does it change our fundamental beliefs, or does it change, how do we assess that and then look at it, like you said, what do we need as far as professional development in the future? Which is kind of what we're going to touch on next. I can move forward a little.
Well, let me jump in and try to provide you a bridge to your PD, maybe. I started in the classroom a long time ago, but certainly my beliefs about education, about students evolved and changed over the years. And I think evolution is the word I want to try to use. Or I was getting a bigger, a broader view of things. I was, again, a dippy hippie who was going to change the world in 1976 when I started teaching. What I learned up to like 3 years ago was how the inequities that students brought to school. So in order to try to save the world, now I have to acknowledge that all kids are not equal. They don't come from the same kinds of homes. So that was a deeper understanding, or a bigger, broader understanding of the same belief that I had when I graduated from college, but it was, some of the naivete was gone.
Right.
We're all still trying to save the world.
And we need PD.
And we do, we need PD. Okay, let's see. Now let's look at, let's see. Can you see that? Okay. So now let's think back to last Monday. So now we're into a whole different scenario of teaching, where what we believed about teaching, standing in front of a class, whether we are direct instruction or hands-on facilitation, whatever strategies we're using, have now just been upended, maybe, and maybe forever. So I was thinking we could take a minute to think about how this new reality of empty classrooms and kids behind computers will impact our belief system and where we need to go from here. If you just want to jump in, or do you want me to break out again?
We don't need to break out again,
Right.
Joyce. I think everything has changed now. And my wife said, why wouldn't it go back to, you know, teachers standing in front of classrooms in a month or 2 months? It might, it could. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think when we find a different way of doing something that's, as you said, this is a money game ultimately. Buildings are expensive. People to clean buildings and feed children out of buildings. A whole new way of looking at education, because I think in the history of education in this country, the initial goal was to educate children, and then we see the broader picture that children bring with them all sorts of things, whether it's poverty, whether it's elitism, whatever it is, they bring it with them to school, and you need to serve those needs. Or we believed we needed to serve those needs, and we have. We have sports, we feed children, we provide the psychological services, the medical services, social skills, all of those things above and beyond, you know, a general education, I guess. So I think it's going to change, and maybe, as you said,
you know, the thing that comes to my mind is the equity piece. You know, how things are going to change, and how do we maintain and make sure that there's equity in this? That's my big question.
Because we don't do a good job of that right now, I don't believe. So I think that's going to be even more prevalent and difficult. If the child has to come to school to eat because mother sold the food stamps, what's she going to do with the computer that's been issued? Or dad, or whoever. You know, if these are issues in the home, just providing technology won't get the job done. So these are still big problems. I did find all the way back in 2004, I was looking at several articles, but I found this one where Rice in 2006 had looked at a comprehensive view of distance learning for K through 12. And there was a policy plan in 2004 that was probably aligned closely with No Child Left Behind as schools of choice started to open up. The plan proposes 7 main objectives: to strengthen leadership, consider innovative budgeting, improve teacher training, support e-learning and virtual schools, encourage broadband access, and move towards digital content. 7 was to improve achievement through student data management. Particularly relevant for this report is the plan's emphasis on e-learning as one of the key issues facing federal, state, and local education agencies. This recommendation for states and districts and schools include: provide every student access to e-learning, enable every teacher to participate in e-learning. Yet here we are scrambling to figure out how we're going to present to children. Encourage the use of e-learning options to meet the No Child Left Behind for highly qualified teachers, supplemental services, and parental choice. Explore creative ways to fund e-learning opportunities, and develop quality measures and accreditation standards for e-learning that mirror those required for course credit. 16 years ago, and here we are scrambling. So I feel like education's always behind the game. This is a whole bunch of talk and nothing's really happening, except we're in a jam now because we needed to be professionally developed in doing this. Our math teachers are in a good place though. They videotape all lessons. Even when they're out, a sub could push play and they're in front of a smart board, or kids can go to their website. But other than that, the rest of the teachers are scrambling. Any thoughts on that and how that looks with our belief system for education?
Joyce, I mean, that's so interesting. Like, I even want to get a copy of this and see exactly where you got it from, because to see that, like you said, in 2004, this looks like this was created like a week ago. And how we have to stay in front of policies. And I think as educators, we have to look at not if it's really needed in dire situations, but that it needs to be used and implemented. And now we, like you said, we are scrambling. We really are. And we didn't have to.
We didn't have to. They knew e-learning was coming, digital platforms were coming, and I think education is so disjointed by between federal, state, and local area educational systems that it's almost like other government agencies that are disjointed, like police department, sheriff department, city, county, state organizations. Same with education. And I'll be glad to share. It's in the references. I guess I can put it on our Google page.
Yes, all of these things could have been done in the past, but they weren't. And that basically, folks, boils down to policy decisions that our elected legislators make and fund. And it's follow the money. That 2004 plan wasn't put in place because there wasn't money to support it. Now we have a crisis, and billions of dollars is being thrown around. Billions are being talked about in terms of funding for various things. We got to ask, where's the money for education? And if we want to talk about equity and not having kids in schools, where's the money for broadband and for every child to have access and a laptop? That would not be expensive, folks. Even if things happen to laptops, that would not be expensive in the big picture of things. And we're not there yet because there has not been the political will nor the dollars to do it.
Well, I want to comment on the digital teaching and learning piece, because I know teachers have been asked to participate in digital teaching and learning for CEUs, but I don't think it was actually realized that, you go through these modules, you're going to actually have to use this. I think it was more of a check off to say that I've received my CEUs in digital teaching versus I really want to learn and be able to have the ability to go back and apply it. Because we've been trained in Beyond the Chalk, and our media coordinator, she's provided digital teaching and learning CEUs, and yet and still when last week came, we were scrambling just like everybody else.
I think it's also interesting to think about how, when that was written in 2004, how was technology different? What was available to teachers trained then for e-learning versus what e-learning is now? Because I know, I'm going to age myself as real young here. I was still in middle school in 2004. And we didn't have any, we had a computer at home because my dad was a stock student. But I know people who didn't have internet access or computers in their home in 2004.
That's a good point.
It was a much higher percentage than our kids now. And being able to reach kids has changed tremendously in those past 15 years.
But my issue is this plan was thought about and talked about, but I hear some people saying we aren't even one-to-one with the kids with a $99 Chromebook. What platform are you using to video? So it hasn't been ongoing PD to keep people ready, I guess. So yeah, that's very different years ago. So
I think the key word that I keep hearing is fragmented.
That popped up a lot. I know we've talked about it even when we were doing our check-in, mentioning, you know, that even from school to school and district to district, we all have different expectations for e-learning. So when we get in a situation like this, I have found, and maybe I'm biased here, but for me, we push out a lot of laws. And when I say we, I don't necessarily mean me, although I do vote these people in or out as I choose. But we push a lot of laws out that nobody enforces. There is a major difference between having a law and enforcing it. And if we put a situation in place, even like the thing currently with Alabama, well, it's probably not even current anymore, where they were starting out with that teacher's bill of rights, my question then in the teacher forum I was in was, okay, so what happens when those rights are violated? A student is going to throw a chair. Who's going to enforce these rights, and what are the consequences? And I think we have another situation just like this where we're very fragmented, and we can say, this is what we're doing, but there is no accountability and there are no consequences.
Joyce, do you want to wrap up your presentation?
Sure. All right, so my last thing is, because my sisters are older than me, I also like hippie music. So, here we go. Can you hear it?
Whatever you did last time, it was under more.
All right, looking for more. Hold on. Okay. Share sound. There it is, share sound. Can you see the screen?
See the screen.
That's enough. I love Bob Dylan, but I just felt that was fitting. It sounded like 40 plus years later, he was singing about last week and right now.
I was talking to my husband not too long ago about some of the concerns, and he was like, yeah, just like the past generation and the generation before and the generation before. He said, honey, this is nothing new.
Over and over. I just felt like, you know, we could use assessment though to figure out what we believe, where we're at, where we want to be, and where we're going. And I did feel like, I don't know, it was fitting. We got to take a look and figure out how to swim because we're changing, we're moving on.
And
For
something you just said to Pam as well, where I think I've not been in the generation where there's been such a huge wave, but if you do, like you just said, Pam, things have changed through time. There's been big, huge waves of things happening, and it depends on where, like if you were too young to realize it, or you were too old to even know it happened. But right now we're at the age where it's something so shocking
that we can see the impact on it.
Yeah. There were patients who this would be like, this is all they know. Right. And I think that's the interesting part. We're part of something that's new and big.
Right, I agree.
Last words, Joyce?
For anybody that wants that article, I can put this in the Google Drive and not really.
Okay. Will you turn control back over to, or can I snag it? I reclaimed it. I think I got it. I think I got it.
Because I was like, I don't know how to fix it.
Okay. And let's see. Well, thank you for that. And I think what one major learning there was about the volume for the video. It was in more, huh? And LaShonda, are you ready to, if we take a minute and then cue you up, are you ready to go?
Yes.
I'm going to give you the host control. I've just made you host, LaShonda, so now you should see something on your toolbar that says share a screen or a new share. And if you click on that, you should be able to open whatever you want to show us.
Share screen?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I have chapters 2 and 3. I really want to focus on how to use assessments. Our learning objectives, we want to be able to identify the purpose of assessment. We want to determine the meanings of assessment for learning, as learning, and of learning. And we want to be able to create a goal to lead colleagues in discussions about assessment. I looked at the teacher leader model standards, standard 2, 3, and 4, really talking about using assessment for student learning and to improve practices, promoting professional learning for continuous improvement, and the use of assessment and data for schools and districts for improvement. So first I want us to think about what is the purpose. Educators need to think about the various purposes for assessment and make choices about the purposes they believe are important and how to realize these purposes every day in the classroom. I found this in the text Earl on page 19. So what I would like for us to do is take some time to think about what is the purpose for assessment? Why do you believe it is important for us to have assessments? And the second thing I want you to think about is how has the purpose of education changed within the last century? I know we've all talked about the history of education. So based on the history of education and where we are now, how has that purpose for assessment changed? We're not going to go into a breakout room right now. I just want you to reflect for a few minutes. And then when you want to share, you may just join in and share.
So LaShonda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I guess, or I'm looking at too, like the purpose has changed. I think you said in the last century.
Mm-hmm.
I think about a lot of things were more, and seeing all the things 21st century learners versus, I think, I can't remember the text we had where it said, if you looked at what were the values, what did people value more coming into the workforce, and computation was at the top of the list, was one of the things, versus now computation is at the very bottom of the list. And so I think our purpose is changing for what we intend for our students to do. And once again, I know we keep coming back to it, but I think about what's going on now, how this is something brand new, and a virus that we've never heard of. What type of people are working on it? It's people who are problem solvers, who are probably being taught to handle things that's unknown to them. What are we doing in the classrooms that we're just showing you step by step how to do something? How is that helping you for something that we truly need like now, if that makes sense?
After history and education, my answer about how assessment has changed over time is kind of twofold. First of all, we have a whole bunch more assessments now than we used to have. Formative and summative and EOGs and EOCs and all kinds of tests that we didn't, benchmarks that we didn't used to have. But the second really big change, I think, is assessment for equity, or basically after No Child Left Behind, which I hated that law, but anyway, we didn't used to care about all the kids. Now assessment is helping us understand who we have not reached in the past, and so the expectation about assessment, I think, has changed. And I'll shut up.
I think when I think about the purpose of education, and the purpose of education is to help all of our students achieve, but how has the purpose changed? And it's talked about a lot now that we see that schools are not just a place for kids to go to learn. They're a place for students. The whole educational system now is really a safe place for kids, for them to learn, for them to socialize, for them to get medical attention, for them to get mental and social emotional health. I feel like education, that's such a big word now. And even when I was in school, yes, we had guidance counselors and we had all that, but now we have certified therapists in our schools now, and that might have been around when I was younger. I don't know, because I never took advantage of those services, but I just feel like that's such a huge focus in our schools right now, is how it's the whole child. It's not just the education, not just the learning.
That is so true. And as we think about the purpose of education changing, we also have to think about the purpose for assessment changing as well. So thank you all for sharing. I appreciate that. The three approaches to classroom assessment discussed in the text is assessment for learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. So I have a little Kahoot, so let's see if this will work. Let me see. All right, so if you all want to go to your Kahoot, I have a class. If you probably have to go, do you all have the app saved to your phone, or can you go to Kahoot it, open up another window on your device?
Yep.
Oh, wait. You all are in my, oh, here it is. We're going to play. I'll wait a few seconds and let you see if you can go to Kahoot it, and then we'll play the game. And what this is just kind of reviewing what we've learned as far as the three approaches to assessment, without me kind of just boring you and going through each one over and over again. And whoever wins, Dr. Palermo will give you 5 extra points.
Where's the game number?
Okay, I was trying to wait. Okay.
I'm sorry. I won't rush you anymore.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just wanted to make sure everybody got there. Okay. Assessment. We're going to do classic. Okay. Do you all see the pin number? I see Mallory's joined. Kelsey, Shanda. Okay, is that everyone? Joyce? Yeah, I think that's everyone.
Please go ahead without me.
Okay, are you ready? Here you go. All right, great. You all are so smart. Okay, now it won't let me. Let's see. Shanda's in the lead. Great job, Shanda. I'm having to kind of like go behind our photos to try to figure out how to make this keep going. Hold on. Oh, here we go. I figured I had to drop it, guys.
I can't see the questions.
All right, great job. See who's in the lead. Shanda still. Uh-oh, Kelsey's taking over. All right, let's go. Let's see. Uh-oh, Kelsey, look like it said you're on fire. Is that what that means? Okay, great job. All right, great job. Okay, we have about 2 more questions. Okay, very good. The purpose of assessment as learning is self-monitoring and self-correction or adjustment. Okay, good. All right, Kelsey's still in the lead. Uh-oh, I'm paying attention to that G. It's supposed to be a G. All right, we all know that assessment for learning happens in the middle of learning, not when we're meeting with parents. All right, and this is the last question. Very good, great job. Kelsey? All right, in game. Pam came in 3rd place. Shanda came in 2nd place. And Kelsey came in 1st place. Great job, Kelsey. All right, let me see how to move this out of the way now. Uh-oh, wrong one, I guess.
New screen. There you go. There you go.
I need this one to stop talking to me, though. Okay. Oh, goodness. All right, there we go. All right, congratulations, Kelsey. Is there anything that you want to share, Kelsey, to help you to kind of get all those corrections, those answers correct, or was it one that kind of tripped you up that you want to talk about that you had to kind of think through a little bit?
Well, reading through, I did just read through and briefly skim that chapter last night. So it was fresh in my mind. Okay. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. If we're, we remember the for, as, and of and kind of what they represent, then I think it will inform us to help us be better classroom teachers.
Yes, I agree. And also thinking about as instructional leaders, like how having knowledge of this information and being able to share that with colleagues, how that can be helpful. So next I have a YouTube video that talks about assessment for learning and assessment of learning. And as you're watching this video, I want you to be able to come back and discuss with the removal of standardized assessments this year, how does this impact classroom assessment? Think about, does it impact classroom assessment in a positive way because we can focus on student learning versus trying to teach to a standardized test that we want students to be able to take at the end of the year? So kind of just think through those pieces as far as assessment with the changes that are going on. And I'm going to attempt, I think I'm going to get it. Let's see. You all can't hear, right? You can hear? Oh, great.
Yes.
one of the things that comes up when you get into a differentiated class, let alone one that's standards-based, is you have to begin to weigh formative versus summative assessment. Now, summative assessment is actually anticlimactic. It really refers to post-learning after all is said and done. So it's the final declaration. Usually there's not a lot of capacity to go back and revise one's efforts and be assessed and accredited anew. But one thing that teachers forget is that something that was intended to be summative, child does poorly for whatever reason, you're allowed to make it a formative assessment. Something that was summative now becomes formative. That's actually okay. It's within your prerogative. But what about formative assessment? Well, of the two, teachers tend to spend the majority of their time designing their summative assessments, as if that was the most important aspect. But really, it's formative assessment. That's the most important aspect. It has the greatest impact on student achievement, on feedback to the teacher. Everything, the whole enterprise of teaching and learning really boils down to that formative assessment. Can kids learn without grades? Yeah. Can they learn without formative assessment and the feedback that comes from it? Not at all. So we want to emphasize that. In fact, I would suggest that teachers spend at least the same amount of time, if not more, designing formative assessment instead of summative assessment. But what is this formative assessment? Well, formative assessment obviously is the ongoing assessment. It's the checkpoints along the way. But here's the kicker. The best formative assessment actually involves descriptive feedback. Not just, hey, thank you for finishing on time. No, it was you had your supplies. You were able to do this and this and this, and that helps all of us. It's kind of like Jim Fay in his Love and Logic books, Point and Describe. The National Association of Secondary School Principals and many other folks who are into assessment talk about three aspects of descriptive feedback. You help the kid discover, or you point it out yourself, what was the goal, what was the original intent, the objective, where are you in relation to it, and what are we going to do to close that gap? Three different parts of good descriptive feedback. When a kid can take that and use it, we find that formative assessment is any assessment that's done where the kid is allowed to revise his efforts in light of that feedback and then be assessed and accredited anew. Perhaps there's some relearning in there as well, but it's ongoing, and that's the focus. If our focus is summative assessment, students don't learn as well. Dylan William, one of the great researchers in this, he did this wonderful manifesto, Inside the Black Box, with Paul Black. And man, it turned America on its ear. In 1998, we started looking at formative assessment and started transforming schools. So how do we give feedback to kids? Is there formative assessment in my lesson plans? In great lessons, I should be able to circle the formal formative assessment and feedback going to students. There's also informal, where you observe, maybe get some feedback right there in the spur of the moment. But I should see lots of checks for understanding and kids getting that feedback. In fact, Bob Marzano and many others talk about the effect size, the impact of some decision. And it turns out the effect is much greater if you do an assessment and there's going to be descriptive feedback. If there's no feedback, it turns out the assessment, the tasks, the assignments don't have much instructional value compared to when there's feedback. So in the same planning breath, as I design my assessment, I'm going to design how will students get feedback on this, and how will it inform my lessons? In fact, I should be able to walk down a hallway and stop a teacher cold. They don't know I'm coming. They don't know the question's coming. And say, how did formative assessment inform one of your decisions today or this week with a student, a subset of students, or a class? And the teacher should feel very comfortable. I found out this about these students. I decided to do that. That's one of the big pillars of differentiated instruction. And it turns out classrooms where teachers focus on formative assessment, test scores go up if you use that as an indicator. But really, mastery, student achievement, it all goes up. And again, I wonder, what goes unlearned because a teacher didn't get into, didn't understand, didn't apply formative assessment principles?
Okay, thank you. Oh, so thinking about I know Kelsey and I talked a little bit in one of our breakout sessions about feedback during this time of virtual learning. And also, like the discussion question, with the removal of standardized tests, how does this impact classroom assessment? And what do you think we need to make sure we're focusing on to ensure our students are learning? We're not going to do a breakout session right now, so if you want to reflect for a minute and then share, that would be great. Or if you heard anything in the video that was an aha for you, you can share that as well.
One thing that kind of stands out to me, we actually got an email from our superintendent 2 nights ago that was confirming that we had applied for the waiver for no standardized testing. And at this point, he signed it off with "Teachers, thank you. Now you have the opportunity to teach as you've always wanted to teach. Don't hold back." So in my classroom, we're never teaching to a test or to a standardized test for that point. So I have a little more freedom, but I imagine that things are going to get a lot more creative now that teachers aren't tied to having to teach towards SC ready, those types of tests at the end of the year.
So you think their forms of assessment will look a little bit different as a result of that?
I hope so.
Yeah.
They would if I was in their shoes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Not sure.
Wonder, if this is an opportunity for teachers to use non-standard assessments for projects and for demonstrations. I think I suggested earlier to Kelsey that video soliloquies might be the student work product that is then assessed. So maybe we can do some authentic assessment as a result of this.
That's a good point.
I think that would be the hope, but I still think that people are creatures of habit. We have lesson plans, and we're going to try to wrap this video teaching around those lesson plans. I don't think in the beginning that it's going to be that creative, even when we're given the freedom. For teachers, particularly I think core teachers, I don't know, I'm thinking middle school, high school that have core classes or classes for various credits. I'm not sure. It's a great opportunity.
According to Joyce's chapter 6, teachers are going to revert to whatever they've done unless they're encouraged to do something different.
Right. I like those encouraging words. Teach the way you've always wanted to teach.
I agree with you, Joyce, that I think that some teachers are going to revert back to their habits and do what they've always done. As a high school math teacher, I know what's in my standards builds upon in the next math course. So I can't completely let go of my standards. And I know that's not what you guys are saying, but I still feel like I have to follow some type of pacing, because if I don't teach factoring this year and they get next year and they have to start graphing quadratics and they've never seen factor, like everything has to build on top of each other. And it's a really hard line that teachers are going to have to walk and figure out. And I think that when it comes down to it, I know that our county is probably going to dictate what we can and can't do. We won't have the freedom to vary very far from it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm saying, and I know you said this, but I don't think I'm saying throw out the standards, because we have to, break down what it is we want someone to learn. But even though I wanted in my training to have a veteran teacher, her ideas of how children learn and how to teach children was very different than she was not teaching inquiry-based science, which was fine. We had a difference in view on that, but and she would never have taught the way I wish to teach.
Right.
But we still had to teach the same standards.
Yeah.
And I think the hope is, if you can focus on more formative type assessments and assessments as learning, because you're not going to be as tied to maybe some EOG prep type materials or different things like that require you to kind of do that. Okay, we're getting ready for the EOG. Let's complete these EOG release passages and EOG release question stems, so giving teachers the opportunity to really know where students are within instruction. And like you said in the video, providing that feedback based on that student's particular need versus this is how far you are from getting a level 3 or 4 on the assessment. So kind of shifting that mindset, I think, is a great idea. But thank you all for your discussion. That was really great. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to try the breakout sessions with the jigsaw activity. Fingers crossed. So this is the article here. And it's assessment through the eyes of students. And I found it on educational leadership. What I really want us to focus on is the first section, and you all are familiar with Jigsaw. Hopefully I'll put you all in 3 different breakout sessions. You will discuss with your colleagues the section of the article that I assigned to you, and then we'll all come back together and discuss the article. So the first session, whoever goes in breakout session 1, I want you to become the expert on the section assessment through the student's eyes, and also the assessment experience. So kind of read through those 2 pieces if you are in breakout room 1. If you are in breakout room 2, I would like for you to read the assessment for learning piece. The scenarios would have been good, but we're going to skip through those. I think it just gives you some specific details of how this could be done in the classroom. We're not going to focus on that today, but you're more than welcome to read it later. In the last session, session 3 or breakout room 3, I want you to focus on redefining our assessment future. Okay, so if I stop sharing, will you all still be able to see the articles, or how do I go about?
No, we won't.
Okay.
Can you tell us where we can access that link?
Let's see.
Could you copy and paste the link into the chat?
Oh, that's smart. Let me see.
Thank you, Kelsey.
All right, let me go back to this. I'm going to copy. And, where you all at? Are you all right here? No, that's not you.
Close your screen share.
Okay, so is it this one? No, that's not it. All right, so I guess this is it, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the chat. Let me see how I can do this. Man, I'm just gonna click on your face and hope something happens. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to chat so I can copy and paste this in.
Chat is in the bar at the bottom.
LaShonda, I think I got it. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, no, that's not
That
it.
worked.
Does everybody have the article?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now I need to stop share, right?
Yes.
Stop share, and then I need to breakout rooms.
Right.
So I only want, oh, you all are already in a breakout room. So I'm going, oh, Pam, you're not in a room with someone. So
Randomize it.
You're in with Pam?
You can randomize the breakout room.
You can assign Pam to a room.
Okay, so Pam, I'm gonna move you to room 2, I guess. I hope oh, well, let's see. Pam, okay, let me see. Delete this room. Yes, so we only have rooms 2, 3, and 4. So we're gonna act like that's 1, 2, and 3. So 2, do the first section. 3, do the second session, and breakout room 4 do the third session. And I'm going to open all rooms, right?
It's you and me, Mallory.
I know. So we're reading section 3.
Section 3. Let me pull that up.
So that would be redefining our assessment future. Is that right?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
You're going to take some time to read?
Yes.
Okay, me too. Tell me when you feel like you've had time to digest that.
Okay. Okay.
That was pretty thick reading, and I was trying to summarize it. I'm not sure I've captured it, but the first paragraph seemed to be saying something about we need to expand the criteria that we use to evaluate the quality of assessments, that we seem to be in love with scores but need to think about the effect on the learner. Did you get effect on the learner, Adam?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. What else?
I really picked out 2 quotes that really stood out to me, and the first one was the test. Hold on, let me find it. Of course, I didn't write where I found it. Even the most valid and reliable assessment cannot be regarded as high quality if it causes a student to give up. So that goes along with what you were saying.
I have to think about the effect on the learner. And then the second half of that was students need to be better consumers who can use assessments to learn what they know, what they don't know, what they still need to learn. And that's again the whole thought about assessment for learning. So.
Mm-hmm. I pulled out the same thing. I wrote down students' emotional reaction is a big indicator of how they're going to use the results from the test. Are they going to use it to give up, or are they going to use it to help them drive to do better or to know what they don't know?
Yeah. So would you like to report out on this, or I guess we're going to jigsaw, so we're each going to have something to say, or?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I'm
Okay.
fine with it. Fine with that.
And we're going to return and.
Oh,
listen
yes.
again.
Alrighty, I'll go ahead and return then.
See ya. We came back early.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
For the AIG group.
That lets me know it's working too. So I guess I share screen again when everybody gets back.
I think you have to hit a button too, LaShonda, that will say like end group sessions or something.
It's okay. It said it closed in 1 second. So
okay.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, you did it. You did it.
All right,
so now you know how to do. Now you know how to do breakout rooms, LaShonda.
I know, right? That's wonderful. Thank you all so much for your patience. So if you were in that first section, would you like to kind of summarize your understanding of that part of the article?
Well, Joyce and Gail and I were talking about how changing how teachers are looking at assessments as well, because as long as we're seeing assessment as if you make a 100, you're successful, that's the way the kids are going to feel. And those kids who do not make 100s or A's are looking at that as the standard for them instead of their own personal growth as their standard. And just made the comment about how teachers put up on the board the kids who made A's all the time. That's what you see when you go into classrooms. You see 100s plastered up there. But what about the kid who actually made a D, but they made an F last week, but now they made a D? So to change the mindset and show that success rate of kids in whatever they're doing should be our standard.
Wow, that's really great. Yeah.
Yeah, they should be measured against their own performance rather than the classroom performance.
And how many teachers realize or think about this, how students feel about, continuing to receive that, even though they went from a D to a C, them being recognized for their effort versus feeling like they're not accomplishing their goals when they may be working just as hard as those students who are making A's. So that's a great point. All right, the second section of that article.
The thing I picked out was that the teachers and the students are actually in a partnership when it comes to assessment. They're actually working together. They're analyzing the data together, and they're using the data together to move learning forward.
Yeah, that's true. Excellent point.
It reminds me of the not yet concept we learned, was that last class weekend or in one of the videos along the way, where we shouldn't say, that's not right. We should say, not yet, but let's keep working on that.
The power of yet. That is
yeah,
true.
we talked about, right, we also talked about the mindset changing, of how the teacher's mindset, if they would change, maybe students' mindsets would change in terms of how they view assessment. And Hattie, they talked about, the impact of grades and the impact of comments, and making sure that feedback that we're giving is more of a growth type of feedback for students to help them grow.
Yeah, excellent point. Excellent point. All right, that third section, if someone from that group would like to summarize.
Start us off, Mallory.
Yeah, this section, it was very interesting. I pulled out a couple of quotes that I really was struck by. The first one was the test, no matter how reliable or valid it is, it cannot be regarded as high quality if it causes a student to give up. So this section was mostly focused on the student's emotional reactions. So if their emotional reaction to the test score If that causes them to just give up or to not want to know what they got wrong, then that's not a high quality assessment.
So quality involves the effect on the learner, and students need to be good consumers who use assessments to learn what they know, what they don't know, and what they still need to learn in that that not yet mind frame of we didn't get it yet. But yeah, at the end of the article, this is the end, and he seems to be circling back to thinking about how we in education seem to put assessment scores up on a pedestal and worship them, but we need to think more about the effect on students.
Yes, that is true, and we miss that conversation sometimes when we're talking about assessment. Thank you all so much for sharing. So I'm going to share my screen. Well, maybe I'm not. Oh, here we go. All right, so the last thing we want to talk about is rethinking assessment for real change. In early 2013, she argued that second order change that will influence how teachers view their work and act on a daily basis in their classroom, not just a few superficial changes in delivery or resources. So how to make that change authentic is something that, we all want to strive towards. So just kind of think for a minute, you as a leader, how can you facilitate conversations about change? And I want you to identify one goal to begin this process of change and rethinking assessment based on what we've learned throughout this course and also kind of this presentation. What's a goal that you can write that you want to accomplish to begin this process of rethinking assessment for change? I'll give you about 1 minute. And if anyone would like to share, that'd be great. If not, of course, this is your personal goal. So one of the things about adult learning that we learn is that, it's up to you if you want to share that with us or not. It's for you to be reflective.
I feel like we're all having to rethink assessment as we move to online instruction. The assessment tools we used before are not applicable anymore. So I think we're all having to redo, reevaluate, figure out how we're going to figure out if the students are meeting their learning goals and how to assign grades on these online assignments to reflect their knowledge, participation, and engagement.
Okay, so you believe that to begin facilitating those conversations, we can start with the current state as far as going to online learning?
Absolutely, and that's going to be part of my presentation tomorrow, just us talking about what type of tools we're using for assessing.
Okay, thank you.
Be thinking about that too.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to share how they want to facilitate the conversations about change or identify one goal to begin this process?
I'm going to have a conversation with my 13-year-old granddaughter because this is pop school. Like several of you, I think I'm doing homeschool here. So I want to engage her in, she is getting a whole lot of online work sent to her. And a bunch of it is quizzes and assessments. So I want her to think about how she can use these quizzes to help herself understand what it is that she knows well, what she doesn't know, and what she still needs to learn.
Oh, wow. That's a great idea. Thank you so much.
She's lucky to have you, Dr. Palermo.
She doesn't think so.
She shouldn't think so, but she'll look back on this later in life and understand.
I agree with you. All right, so here's my pair of the references that I use for this presentation. And thank you all so much for your patience and cooperation. So do I just stop sharing right now?
I think I have figured out how to reclaim control.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you. And I got 1, 2, 36. As feedback so far, we're running a little long. So if the next couple can speed up, that'd be good. And I need a break. Everybody, why don't you take 5, please? And when we come back, who's up next? Tiffany, can we go to you next?
Would you say that again? My computer keeps getting wonky.
Yeah. Tiffany, will you be ready to present after we take a quick break?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Let's
my
take,
computer is, that's the difference.
okay. We'll take 5, please. And then when we come back, Tiffany will be queued up. Thank you. Tiffany, I think I have turned control of the, you are now the host.
Dr. Palermo, you gotta walk me through this.
Okay. You are now the host. And do you have a PowerPoint that you want to show us?
Yes.
Okay. Is the PowerPoint open on your desktop?
It is now.
Okay. You go down, I think it's at the bottom in the control bar, and it's going to say share or new share.
Like share, and
Yeah.
then I just clicked on share, and I say
What
I need to click on.
Share, you should see windows that you have opened and minimized, or.
Okay, so should I hit share now?
And let's see what it's sharing. Yes. There you go.
Oh, okay.
You are now sharing your screen with the rest of us.
Oh, good.
And we can see that.
Okay, and I may ask a lot of questions about this is because my school, we're using Zoom for the first time with the teachers.
Uh-huh.
Invite for everybody. And so this would be helpful because I can give the hosting back over to my principal and give her, because she knows nothing about it.
I can show you how to do this. And what I did was go down to the bottom to the toolbar. Don't do it right now, but I went down to participants. And when you're the host, you can control things, the participants down there. You also see the button at the bottom for the breakout rooms. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You have to stop your share before you see the breakout rooms.
I don't.
Does the room button only come in when you're in control of the screen?
Yes, and she is now in control of the screen.
Okay, I see it at the top. Now, would it say manage when it says manage participants, or should I actually see the word I see breakout rooms under more.
Okay, so breakout rooms is how you could assign us into different rooms if you wanted to.
Okay.
You don't have to do that.
Okay, I won't for time's sake.
Okay. And you were buffering just a little bit. I lost your audio some, but
yes, it's been going out a lot. Like I've been having a log back in like throughout this course of time. So I'm hoping maybe it will be okay through my presentation.
Let's give it a try. Tell us when you're ready to start.
Is everybody in? I can't see everybody.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
9.
We're all.
Okay.
I think we're here.
Okay.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, dear.
All right. Okay, I started with, I had chapters 4 and 5. One was a spotlight on learning, and then chapter 5 was a lot of things were connected. So we'll get started. So the purpose and objective is, what do we hope to learn? What are the optimal circumstances for learning? And how do we create these situations for our students and teachers? And how do we integrate assessment to help students learn versus using assessments to gauge what they have learned? And under domain, assessing using research to improve practice and student learning. So the first thing we're going to do is an anticipation. Here's the link here, and actually I did not know how we were going to share everything, but I put everything under our cohort Google slide. If you go under our cohort and under facilitation, text facilitation, you'll see this PowerPoint. But I can try what Mallory did and see if I can copy the link and
put it in the chat.
A chat.
That worked before. Good.
Okay, let's see if I can do that. Chat. Let's see. Paste. Right. All right, I just put it in chat, see if that works too as well. Did everybody get there? So under the anticipation guide, is everybody there? Should I go ahead and keep going? Okay. Is how do you view learning in your class, in the classroom? And for this, you can go through and you just put a check beside all the time, some of the time, never. And be very honest, because you don't have to just share out unless you want to. This is a self-reflection to feel how you view learning. When you say all the time, oh yeah, you have to make a copy too, because it'll have everybody's, make your copy. When you have all the time, then this lets you know this happened consistently. If it's some of the time you try, but it does not happen on a consistent basis and never, you realize it is important to do, but you need more help understanding. And at the end, we will do a reflection on each of these. So I know it's like a few of them. However, if you can really focus on a few that you truly want to reflect on. And we'll do I'll do 1 minute. We'll go through in like 1 minute.
I'm sorry, Tiffany, did you say you wanted us to make a copy? Or
Well, I was going to do a copy, but for interest of time, everybody can just put an X or they'll put their name under each one if you want.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and then you can make your own copy for your own personal one.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Everybody okay with about 30 more seconds? Okay, so would anybody like to talk about any particular section? Because on these sections here, except for the first two were more of just kind of quickly how you felt about assessment, but 3 all the way to the end, it's on page 36, is what we call what makes human beings human. And each of these focuses around, like when it says, my students have multiple opportunities to discuss and critique their information with their classmates. That's the metacognition part of it, and how students actually organize their thoughts and ideas. I'm not going to go through all of these. Dr. Palermo, if that's okay. Do you want? I can't hear you.
You do not need to go through all of them. No.
Okay, I didn't want to. I just want to make sure.
It's your,
so y'all,
your
I'm
choice,
not.
Tiffany. Pick and choose.
Okay. So one of the big things that I really liked was if you go down to I give my students flexibility on how they show what they have learned. This right here is, and I think it was either LaShonda, I think it was you, but it's the product differentiation. It's where you allow your kids to do show different ways. And this kind of what you had our breakout session looking at, where kids are not assessed one particular way. They are assessed on their product. They show you how they are able to learn. And this one here, honestly, when I looked at what I would do, mine is almost never, I've always had the assessment that I wanted my kids to show me. And I'm not talking about projects. We do projects, but we have to think about truly an assessment of what we have taught in the standards. All right, I'm gonna go back. All right, so there was a part here where it says assessment and teaching 21st century skills. The assessment of learning and teaching that we've talked about, was ways of thinking, the ways of working, tools for working, and skills for living in the world. And if you notice, that is 38, to where the ways of thinking, working, and tools for working, and the skills for living in the world are not how it was before. So if you look at ways of working, it is creativity, critical thinking, the problem solving, not so much task oriented as far as the way you think about things. So pushing kids now, our assessment should then involve much the end product by itself of what I'm looking for, but ways of thinking to how did you get to the end result. With the ways of working is communication and collaboration. Most assessments we do know kids do on their own. So us rethinking possibility of ways of kids working and having an assessment of having that assessment to where they each have a particular part or section in which they will create something and show collaboration. Tools for working. With tools for working right now, how they are using, instead of paper pencil as much, it's not so much paper pencil anymore as with the computer, with the different 2.0 skills that kids definitely need to show. And skills. When you talk about skills for living, it's citizenship, life, career, personal, and social responsibility. That social responsibility is huge. And I think we've always talked about this through a new lens, like how we have our social distancing now. So it's even your social responsibility at this point. How are we helping our kids understand that the things that we choose to do can definitely affect someone else, that we're not only affecting ourselves. And so when we assess kids, we have to figure out, how do we assess that you are even improving your skills for living in the world? You're not isolated. And y'all, if you have a comment, please jump in, because I feel like I'm going straight through. So we'll start right there. Does anybody want to reflect on how maybe assessment for teaching prior to the 21st century and has differed versus now?
Yeah, I had a situation, and it was one of those teachable moments that's completely unplanned. I had a bunch of students out because they went on a chorus field trip, and we didn't know they were going on a chorus field trip until they were all gone. So I had to change what I was doing. And I have this book, and it's really cool that we're talking about this. I actually picked it up in the clearance section of Cracker Barrel. And it's actually for parents, but it's this little journal, and it takes place and it goes through for 3 years, and you just see how the kids' ideas change. So I pulled out the question of the day from that, and it was, what is one problem you would choose to solve in your world if you could? Be realistic. And I thought, well, that's a good little journal prompt, and that won't get a bunch of people behind. Well, they started working on it, and they were so passionate because they had to use their own ideas. They had to be realistic. What can I do as a sixth grader? I'd love to give $1 million to the homeless people, but I don't have that. So what can I do? And it blew up. It actually turned into a contest, and the overall winner actually won $20. So sometimes bringing in this real world thing and this assessment, it was the best work I ever got out of some of those kids. I will swear up and down to this day that not one of them's ever been taught to use a capital letter or a period. But let me tell you, what they turned in when I took the restrictions off of them was fantastic, and their engagement was huge. They were fighting me to hush so they could get to work.
And thank you for sharing that, Shannon. Mine was buffering just now. Thank you for sharing that. And that is going to go along also with further along in the PowerPoint of how as well. Okay. One way is 3 different ways we have to start understanding about learning. That one, learning is hard work, and helping students connect the information to old, and this may create some cognitive dissonance, to where that's what we feel every time when you learn something new and it doesn't mesh with what you know. If whenever you have new information, whenever kids get new information and it's something similar to what they've already know, they assimilate to it. However, we know we're usually in a situation where we're giving kids brand new information, and they may have to accommodate with it because they might have to change how they thought. Also helping kids know that they learn based on their levels of motivation. And as a teacher, we have to make sure we are matching, especially I know with Pam working with the EC world, we have to really look at the skill and challenge balance between kids, and understanding that you don't want the skill too low and a challenge too high, or the skill too high and a challenge too low. You want to match those to where the key call this fluency. Fluency is where they're moving. They're whatever situation they're in, they're constantly moving. They're realizing they're learning something new, but they keep pushing and pushing. However, you get frustration levels or boredom, and I think a lot of our and that challenge is not met at that child's level in class. The next one is learning actually happens in context. And Shanda, you were right on it with your book, because learning is a social process. You don't learn just opening up a book, you learn by doing. And it should be active, and it should be occurring within the context of their life. It should be happening while they are doing something that matters to them. And learning for understanding. And it was like for understanding and not for understanding. You're learning so that you can use the information in another realm, or you hear the information. And I think of learning for understanding as like the opposite of Jeopardy, where Jeopardy is you have all this information in your head, and yeah, you can rattle it off, but how have you used it in real life? And when kids have learned for understanding, you see the application and transfer. You see the knowing, them understanding it versus just knowing it. And to do this, accommodation and assimilation can occur. All right, so I know that was quick, but those 3 things, learning is hard work, learning in context, those 3, I want you to practice. You're gonna click on your neck. Well, yeah, you should have a PowerPoint, but if not, I shared it. It's on the PowerPoint. But you got to click on your name, and then you're going to go into Google Doc with your person and your people, and you're going to look at. Let me click on Kelsey and Shanda. Hello. Okay. And so what you're going to do is, of course, you're going to come and you're going to move each of these down, move them up to where they belong. So building models to help understanding which category would that go under for the sort. So I did, is everybody on the Google Doc? Or, okay. What I'll try to do then is I'll get this link for you, Dr. Palermo. Who needs the link?
I just linked it in the chat.
Thank you. You are on it, Mallory. You're awesome.
I'll get it then.
Oh, 3 minutes. Well, down to like 2. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to just set the timer.
How do you open that document?
Mallory put it under the chat if you want to go under there.
I did that and I've got it open and I'm on the page that says LaShonda, Pam, and Gail, but I can't get that. How's that open?
You have to double click on the image and then you can move it within the drawing.
Okay, Mallory. And it'll like open it up like you're going to edit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Click on the image where it says LaShonda, Pam, and Gail.
No, the actual drawing, the drawing. Like double click inside of there and it'll look like you're trying to edit the drawing and it'll open up in another box.
I'm having the same problem. I'm doing the same thing that Pam is doing, but it won't click.
Okay.
We get the idea, Tiffany. Why don't you show us where they should go?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it's going to do that. All right. So here, let's go to 1. All right. So where do you think we should do? Where do you think we should building models to help with learning? Where did y'all put that one? Is that learning is hard work, learning for understanding, or learning happens in context? When kids are building, have to build mental models.
Learning for understanding.
Okay, do y'all agree?
I think I put that one under learning is hard work, but I could see where it could go with both of them.
Oh, you guys tell me why you think it goes under whichever one you chose.
Learning is hard work. I feel like building models to help them understand is one of the first things that you do when you're learning something new.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a struggle.
I agree with that.
Believe it or not, it could. Go ahead, Pam.
One way that you learn for understanding is through building models to gain understand, to develop that understanding of the concept.
Yes, and they actually put it for under learning for understanding because yes, to really transfer, you have to build some type of mental model in your head and some type of connection for you to do that. What about learning while experiencing?
In context.
Absolutely, because you're doing it in a time frame, in a situation conducive to what you know. What about applying what you know in different situations?
For understanding,
hard work.
It's hard work, yeah, but understanding because you have to apply it. It has to be able to transition to a different situation.
Absolutely, because it has to apply, transfer. What about?
I think I know that one belongs in context.
Which one?
Learning is a social process is context.
I think your screen is frozen.
Tiffany, are you with us?
I think she's buffering.
Buffering. I guess I didn't read this chapter as closely as I should have. Tiff, hello. I'm the host again. We lost Tiffany. Okay, I hope that she will be back. We'll see if she can pop back in. Yeah, Tiffany's having some technical difficulties. We're going to try to get back to Tiffany. We're going to try, Shanda, to tackle Chapter 7, motivation, before we throw in the towel today. But so you be ready. We'll cue you up if we don't get Tiffany back. I think we're going to have some grin and bear it moments here.
Sorry.
I think I heard Tiffany is back.
Yeah, now I'm telling you about. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay. So you were having some technical difficulties, obviously.
Take a deep breath. It's fine.
Yeah, it is. It is. We're laughing and laughing along with you.
With you, not at you.
I was not laughing per se. Okay.
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 Okay. So we were sorting into boxes, and I thought I actually had an answer for a change. I didn't read this chapter very well, apparently.
You did, though. That was right. The last one I heard you say was actually correct.
Socials in context. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Is it okay if we move on?
Yes. Wrap it up.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Do you all see my screen still?
We see you, so share your screen.
Ooh, I don't see my. Okay, hold on.
Does she have to turn over?
What do I do? I don't see the top box anymore, Dr. Palermo.
Okay, hold the phone. I'll get you back.
Okay. Okay.
You're back?
I'm back.
Good.
So now let me see where I can share. Where's my share screen? I don't see.
New screen, share screen.
Oh, share. Okay. Share. All right. Let's get this baby going. All right.
There you go.
All right. All right. So how do we change our view of assessments? Well, an effective way is more teacher-driven. I'm sorry, ineffective. Thumbs down. Teacher-driven and dominated. Use only summative way only. An assessment of quantity. But the most effective way is helping students with the ownership, collaboration with the teacher, and assessment is embedded, not just tacked on, and having effective feedback. All right, so my final thought is I like this little, hopefully it'll work. I really like this. It's a quick little wrap up of what we were talking about. Let me know. I don't know the magic thing for making sure everybody can hear or see it. Can you hear it?
Oh, where's the magic button for
Where's
sound?
where's the button so you can hear it?
You have to stop sharing and choose it.
Oh, I do? I have
Okay.
to stop sharing? I did stop share, you said?
Doesn't she have to stop share to get the sound bar?
I'm not sure where that was.
I think
Valerie,
you have to stop the share.
Who knew
And then
how to add the sound to the video?
When I looked it up, it didn't tell me where it was located on there. It just said you needed to click that button. So I'm not sure on where it's located. Wasn't it under more?
You have a set of, do you have a set of controls, and at the right-hand side, there's 3 little dots?
You said something about share computer sound.
I just, okay, more. I see more.
More. All the way to the bottom.
Drop down menu and more.
Yes, got it. Here we go. We're gonna try this again. Hear it? And that's it. And I see I have a typo, but that's what I wanted to end with, is that we change how we're looking at assessments and how before we can even look at assessments, we have to truly see how kids actually learn, because assessment is assessment for learning. And if we do not know how they learn, then it doesn't matter what type of assessments we're giving. Thank you. I'm gonna stop share.
Very nice. Yes. And I can snatch control back here too, I think.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Yeah, you got it.
I do. Okay. So thank you for that, Tiffany. And we have Shanda queued up for Chapter 7, Motivation. I would like to try to finish one more presentation today. Are you ready, Shanda?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Tiffany, did you give me control back? And I'm having some trouble figuring this out. There I am. I'm sorry. Just had to scroll down further. Shanda Jones, more, make host, click yes to make host. You are now host Shanda Jones. So you should be able to click a share button and start to share your presentation, whatever you got.
Okay, guys, my presentation is also in our text facilitation folder. I'm going to attempt to go ahead and share my screen. So let me know when I start messing up. Okay, can I get a thumbs up if you can see my presentation? Perfect. All right, we're looking at using assessment to motivate learning. One of the things I have learned through this experience this whole week is that motivation comes in a lot of different ways. I was super motivated to do read alouds online for my kids, and then I self-assessed and realized that I hate my voice, and I think I'm going to have to just stop that. So moving on to objectives, the researchers will gain knowledge regarding the importance of motivation, ways assessment might be used to motivate learning in the classroom, and understanding assessment as a motivation for learning will require a mindset shift. That mindset shift also, we'll discover later, applies not just to us and our students, but also to their families. And I promise I'm not texting, I'm setting my stopwatch. All right. Also, several teacher leader model standards hit here, domains 1, 2, 4, and 5. And motivation to learn, it affects the amount of time and energy students are willing to devote to any task. I don't know about you guys, but my students are motivated to do a lot of things. Learning isn't always the case. But there's actually, turns out, they're not just lazy, or I think unmotivated was the swear word for the generation when I was a student. So it turns out, though, that these kids are coming with these preconceived ideas. They're coming with their own sets of biases. Even parents are coming in with these mindsets, such as, well, I wasn't any good in school, so don't expect much. Or I used to have parents that said, well, I'm really strong in math, so don't expect her to do this, that, or the other. And a lot of students have not had success. They feel judged when they're in school. So we have certain things that we need to assist them in working through. And like Tiffany said earlier, that may cause some cognitive dissonance for a lot of our kids. But I do believe that when we build those relationships and do all those good things that we as teachers know to do, educating the whole child, we can really help them change. Essential for the hard work of learning. If they are not motivated, there is nothing I can do. Even if I could stand on my head, that would not motivate a child to learn. And I really like this quote from Earl. She said, assessment can be a motivator, not through rewards or punishment, but by stimulating the intrinsic interest of students and providing them with the direction and confidence that they need to take the risk. And I really want to focus on that word risk. Risk is going to be huge, because in my experience with the students that I've taught, most of them have either learned to take the risk because they are hungry for the success, or they've learned to avoid the risk because they know that they cannot be successful. And that's one of the things that we as teachers are going to try to change. Assessment that motivates should be built, or should build, confidence and competence. And I really like this part. It brings in early victories, and it can be accomplished in small steps. In pretty much anything. Okay. In pretty much anything that we do as adults, we are constantly telling ourselves, one bite at a time. How do you write a dissertation? One chapter at a time, one section of that chapter at a time. When you're doing personal things, how do you learn to lift those weights? 1 pound at a time. Or if you're trying to drop weight, and if anybody's a Weight Watchers failure, how do you do it? 1 pound at a time. We don't necessarily give our kids that opportunity or help them understand that that is an opportunity that they have. So we need to motivate them by giving them the chance to feel those small successes and building their confidence through showing them how competent they are. So another quote from Rural People. I just read that. Never mind. One of the things that really stood out to me again was that our assessment should be relevant, appealing to imagination, which was just bizarre to me, and scaffolded for true success. So I have a little exercise, and I'm not going to lie, I am scared to death to attempt to break out room. So I just want to show you this. If you've ever taught elementary school or been through elementary school, you have probably seen something like it. This is a fast facts test. And my question is, how did 6 second grade teachers motivate approximately 127 and 8-year-olds to love taking fast facts tests? So going back to what I shared before, it should build confidence and competence. If you were on that team, what would you imagine those teachers did? I'll give you a little bit of time and I'm going to shut up. So if anybody wants to share out and give me a minute to take a breath, that would be great.
I'm curious as to if there was an incentive involved, what that would motivate the kids who weren't initially interested to get involved. And if so, what type of incentive it might have been.
That is an excellent question. Is it okay if I don't answer just yet?
Fine by me.
All right. Who else has an idea?
Did they use it more for improvement to look at how the student improves and they were maybe competing against themselves as opposed to whole class?
Okay, competition, self-competition. What else?
Just having that positive attitude towards something like this, not going in and say, oh, you got another quiz today, like spinning it as a positive. This is, like Gail said, putting some type of competition. If you're putting up growth on the board, a kid will do almost anything, even in high school. 17, 8-year-olds will do anything to see their name on the board for something good. So very small types of motivation could help.
Worksheets like that I've seen start off very easy and give a kid quick success on some easy problems that are repeated and then scaffolded up to more difficult ones. But it tries to build confidence with the easy problems first.
I think it'd be good for them to keep a graph of their scores along the way for them to be able to self-track their improvement.
I was thinking on the lines of you, Dr. Palermo, just building that confidence because these are addition facts 0 through 18. So building the confidence in the students being able to perform a task.
Well, the answer I would say to you guys is all of the above. So what happened, this actually happened in my first 9 years of teaching. I taught second grade and our children hated fast facts tests. The parents hated them. We were demons. Everybody was just miserable. But yet we had a math coach who was saying they have got to learn to memorize these facts. I can't necessarily oppose that. I'm still really grateful that I memorized my facts as well. And I can tell you math is difficult for me. But what we did was so simple. And we didn't have any of this information. This is just the power of teachers teaching children. And it started with a crayon. This is a pen, not a crayon. But we'll pretend it's a crayon. So it started with a crayon. And what we did was take away the threat of failure. It used to be, when I first started, that whatever the kids didn't finish was counted wrong. Well, we finally got to a point where we could come together and say, okay, that's not a fair assessment of their knowledge. They can probably do this, they may just need more time. So what we asked them to do was, in the amount of time, answer all the questions you can. When the timer goes off, put your pencil down and answer the rest of them in crayon. And what they were trying to do was, like many of you said, beat themselves and make the crayon disappear. So they still had the chance to answer the questions. They still had the chance to feel success. And yet they still had this motivation to keep going and make the crayon disappear. Now, as far as incentives, we tried to develop a lot of intrinsic incentive with that, you know, definitely that self-competition. But at the same time, I know in second grade, we didn't do it so much, but we actually did have, I think in our third grade classrooms, what we did kind of trickled up, and they wound up having like a major competition, and like the kids got medals and stuff like that. And it wasn't a competition of these people win so they get medals. It was when you reach the level or your goal, then you earn your medal. So it was really cool. It was very kind of Ron Clark-y, you know, in the Ron Clark jacket. So it was a neat thing to do. And I will be honest, I really did in my classroom call it the Majestic, Magnificent, Marvelous Monday Math Quiz. And half the time we had to do it first because they would get so excited about it, I couldn't teach anything else. So just the power of teaching and motivation. The next thing that we need as far as assessment is it needs to be relevant. I know I kind of already blurted out my own answer and shared about the relevant assessment that I did. And it was, I don't want to say it was a mistake. It was just completely unplanned. I gave them, you know, a prompt out of a book, which is really old school. And yet, because it was relevant, it engaged their passions, it capitalized on their interest and their talents, it became something huge. And it was really a stronger assessment of their writing skills, their argumentative skills, their fact versus opinion skills, their research skills, and even their ability to present, that it was stronger than anything I had ever put in my grade book. So sometimes remembering that we have got to connect where they are is a huge thing. And now, like we talked about with the threat of standardized testing being lifted off of us, I would hope, I can't predict that that would be the case, but I would hope that a lot of students, teachers will feel the freedom to do that, to give them more chances to explore within their own interest. I got some really creative answers, such as one girl wrote about how the thing she would like to help people with is stress. And little did she know it was the end of the world as we knew it, because one of her suggestions was to weed out some of the negative people in your life. And boy, she had no clue that we were about to weed out everybody in our lives. But that was definitely something that was a major thing for her in her personal life. She struggles with anxiety. When she has all the talk from the girl drama, it becomes too much. So she's learned that she has to push that out of her life. So that's one of her passions. I had a student who, he's a sixth grader, but he's on the smaller side. And it was interesting. He was talking, completely not realistic, but he was talking about how if you wanted to do something to help animals, you could adopt them out of zoos. And his point, again, completely unrealistic, but his point was, hey, if you see me walking a tiger on a chain, you're not going to mess with me. Well, okay, fair point. He's trying to avoid getting picked on because of his size. So that was another way that his passion, his interest, while not necessarily realistic, was able to shine in his writing. Earl says, assessment does not stand apart. It is interwoven with teaching and learning to make connections for students, reinforcing what they know and challenging their thinking. So I can say That's one of the areas where I failed, which was I could reinforce what they know by giving them feedback such as, wow, that was super realistic, but at the same time, taking them into challenging their thinking and saying, well, this is realistic. Now, what steps do you have to take to actually make this happen? That was one of the areas where I failed. So definitely something we can do as a motivating factor. Imagination is extremely hard for me. You can tell from my PowerPoint, I'm very black and white. I see words, a lot of things happen in my head, but I'm not necessarily that creative person. But to tap into a student's imagination, things need to be open-ended. They need to engage a range of solutions and approaches. Coming into that no wrong answer, or at least no wrong way to find an answer, which I know a lot of people have been anti-Common Core. No boos and hisses or anything like that, but I was actually excited about Common Core because for the first time in my life, I could do math. And sometimes we don't think about that. Sometimes the kids need to understand that, okay, yeah, there may be a right answer, but there are many ways to find it. Critical reasoning, complex problem solving, and again, going back to making those connections. Earl says imagination may well be a critical faculty for students as they confront the world as it really is. A whole series of messy, seemingly insoluble problems to unravel, explore, and try to solve. And when I read that, I actually highlighted it and went back and read it again. And it was still bothering me because I thought there is absolutely no way I'm understanding this. So I read it again, and that she's right. And that is exactly what she's saying. If we really want them to use their imaginations and solve these 21st century real world problems, we are going to have to let them wrestle with the fact that life is messy. I mean, look at where we are now. Nobody saw that coming. All right. The other thing that assessment must do is scaffold learning. This is one I feel like a lot of us are kind of getting to, especially with personalized learning, rubrics, learning menus, and things like that. But the thing that a scaffolded learning does is give students some freedom, but it also gives them some power. It says students learn best when they are in a context that provides a moderate challenge. And a moderate challenge means that the student is expected to take a risk. It is going to be hard, but they have a couple of things in their back pocket. The first one is that they do know how to get started, and they do know that they can come to us to help them reach those new levels of learning. And that, for those of you who are saying that sounds familiar, absolutely, that is the zone of proximal development. Motivation is enhanced when errors and mistakes are treated as a normal part of learning. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but my kids hate to make mistakes. And that has been the same no matter what grade level I've taught. So it's just, again, shifting that mindset. Feedback needs to be timely. Kids also do need a chance to rethink and redo work, and they need to have access to their progress. And I'll be honest, I don't think giving kids a link to their own Power Schools is going to cut it. They really need to keep up with their data, have those conferences with their teachers, and that's something we've always felt we didn't have time for. Well, now we do. So I guess we should take it and see what happens. Assessment during learning, it provides teachers and students insight into what they can do independently and with guidance. Because we're assessing during their learning, they're still empowered to seek help. We're not walking around with those standardized test shirts that say, I can't answer that, just do your best. We can actually stop and help, and that actually promotes the growth, and it promotes their willingness to be vulnerable to us. The other good thing is that we can guide students to gain their complex skills. We can individualize not only their instruction, but also their assessment, and it's targeted for growth. So this is probably hard to see, is a learning menu that my CDP team developed, and actually during our curriculum design process, and even this semester I've been looking at it, even though we just taught it, looking at it and thinking, well gosh, how could we do better? So I have talked a lot and I'm out of breath, and if you can't see that, that's okay. But even looking at something like that, what can we do better when it comes to using assessment to motivate, trying to put kids in charge, trying to give kids some choice and some voice in what they're doing? How can we keep going? How can we improve ourselves?
I think just like you all are doing within your CDP, being reflective of your own practices and being able to determine within that how you can improve and what you need to do directly to impact student learn. I think, you know, like you said, we may implement something, but we don't take time to look back and be reflective of, did that work well, what worked, what didn't work, and what changes can we implement going forward. So I think just being reflective is going to be key to that.
Sure.
I can't read those that text actually, Shanda, but you know, intrinsic motivation was one of the takeaways that I have from your presentation. That it has to really motivate a student, it has to touch them, or it has to be something that they're interested in or want to learn more about. So I would go back to this. I guess I'm a one-trick pony here. The idea of authentic assessment, and I think it intrinsically motivates students when they can sometimes do a project or a product or something that motivates them. So literary textbook club, can they choose their own books? Can they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever they have choice, that's going to be intrinsically motivating.
I think something that we can also improve on is just still talking with our PLCs and with the people we're teaching with, and showing them why this is so important, why it's so important to get out of that standardized testing mode, and that there's other ways to figure out if our kids are where we want them to be or where we need them to be. It doesn't always have to look the exact same.
I agree. One last thing. Again, all of this is stuff that I think probably we could say is at the heart of what we're trying to do. Most of us are not torturing ourselves with a doctorate just for our health. So I would say that we really are those people that are wanting to make these differences, that are wanting to educate the whole child. But again, what we keep coming up against is always, I think, and forever going to be a mindset. The mind is the biggest battlefield I think any of us will ever face. So just as a reminder, students a lot of times have already come to see schools as a place of judgment, especially those of us that teach in upper grades. Whether that's a positive judgment or a negative, helping them to understand that it's not necessarily a place of judgment, but a place of striving. Yes, you can be successful, but you've got to work for it. All of those things have to come together so that we can shift that mindset. And we've got to give them those small steps and those small successes along the way. A lot of times attention is focused on meeting demands and not the personal benefits of learning. My advanced class is the world's worst when it comes to wanting to check things off. I had a parent who shared on Facebook, and I actually don't teach her child, but her child is in my grade level. And she was talking about how her daughter on Monday was already in tears because in her mind, she was going to go home and do all of her e-learning assignments so she could have the rest of the week free. Well, clearly that did not work for her, and she also missed the learning opportunity. So one of those things that we need to help them understand is that we don't want them to just check things off their list. And there's a lot of bells and whistles going on. I don't think that's on my end. But if you can hear it, I'm really sorry. I don't even know what those mean. Earl said breaking old habits will not be easy. Instead, it will be a long process of little steps with setbacks and failures along the way. And if you remember Hull and Horde, that sounds really familiar to us. My references were, of course, Earl, and then the NEA Teacher Leader Model Standards. And I have about 6.5 minutes left, which is perfect because I have a little game. So I hope you have your phone. You're going to want to use your phone for this. And we're going to play quizzes. And I really do have an e-gift card from Amazon for the winner. So you definitely want to do this. I am going to change my screen. So I'm going to stop share. And then I want to share a different screen, I hope. Maybe. I can't see my tabs, y'all.
We're back to your gift card.
Okay. Can you see quizzes now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So to play the game, and again, you'll want to use your phone for this so that you can see the screen, which is where our competition is, and so that you can play. I think you'll go to, my internet connection is unstable, but you will go to joinmyquiz.com and the game code is 786458. And while you're joining, I love a Kahoot game. I think it gets us all motivated. There's a lot of trash talk back and forth when kids are playing Kahoot. If you want to try to give that scaffolding of assessment a chance, one of the fun things about quiz is it's not a situation where students are going to run out of time and get beat by somebody who knows the answer but is quicker than them. So this is just another one of those chances to scaffold if you want to. Anybody? I'm still waiting. If I'm still waiting for you, go ahead and shout out for me. Okay, let's start the game. Congratulations. So Joyce, if you will, please text us your email. I will forward that right on to you. And Dr. Palermo, I'm going to stop share. And if you will please take this away from me, I would be super thankful.
Well, I hope that wasn't too painful. Thank you, ladies, all for your presentations this afternoon. I learned something about video and audio controls. I'd like to have a chance to go back and retry my presentation, knowing what I've learned here about having audio with videos. So I'm going to protest when the instructor tells me on my assessment that that I messed up on the technology part. Hey, it is 10:04. Thank you to all of you who did presentations today. We're all learning together, and believe me, I'm going to be gentle with myself and my technology flubs, and I'm going to be gentle with the rest of us as well. Thank you for hanging in there with me today for a long 7 or 8 hours of online teaching and learning. Thanks to each of you who contributed with your presentations today. We will start back again tomorrow morning at around 9:30. Now, if you didn't notice that, let me take control of the screen here again. Okay, are we back to Blackboard? Can you see that? Okay, and so where's my lesson plan? Oh boy. Not there. Okay. Not there. Without keeping you any longer, I'm going to tell you to take a look at my lesson plan. On Sunday morning, we're going to start at 9:30. I thought about it. I'm going to find a coronavirus prayer for us, but I'm going to ask you to please have meditation and devotional with your family tomorrow morning, and to join us. Click the link for the Sunday Zoom session at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, from 9:30 to 11, I've scheduled Gail, Pam, Mallory, and Kelsey for the last 4 presentations. What we've learned today is that, again, you have to have a button if you want to click the button if you want sound for your video. That if you want to try breakout rooms, that's good. If you want to share a document with us or want us to sign into a Kahoot, maybe post those links for us in the future. Or y'all seem to be very comfortable with that shared Google Drive. If that's the way that you want to continue to collaborate, send me the link. That's all. I had planned a poster activity together tomorrow, and I had planned a text analysis and sharing activity this afternoon that I'm going to turn into a dialogue post instead and conclude our class for today. What questions or comments do you have before we call it a day? Please chime in with anything on your mind.
I think that things went really well today because I had some anxiety about going forward with this, and especially seeing the presentations, and it's just a different platform, but it's very beneficial.
Gail, I join you with my anxiety, and despite my best efforts to model online presentation this morning, my video and audio didn't work, and again, I'm going to try to be. I'm very frustrated right now, so I'm going to try to be gentle with myself about that. But please join us with an open mind, and we will learn something together. The more we dug into Earl, the more I heard about assessment and our visions and the purposes of education, you know, we circled back on that several times, but the deeper we dug, the more I understood that stuff. So I hope again that this has been helpful to you as well. Any last thoughts? Wait time, 2, 3, 1. Folks, have a great evening, and I'll see you in the morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Claiborne.
See you.